Coastal Carolina, that was one of our plays for the first half, and we were on the first half over. That's one that we Coastal. The approach to them this year has been team totals.
How do you make a Q? I'm trying to make a Q. First quarter. I was on them for the first quarter too.
Q. Well, with Coastal, we made a lot of money off of them last year as dogs, but some of these big numbers, I'm just not comfortable with it. But Coastal's one we're always on, and we were on Cincinnati. We were on Cincinnati over Notre Dame. I mean, there's just way too much public action on Notre Dame, and in an unproven spot with a who knows quarterback, and Cincinnati just was on a mission. So, there's a couple teams that we have been on, for a while, paying attention to. It comes and goes because there's about 20 teams that I always pay attention to or throw out the window because I do or don't like them in a certain spot. And, but some of them were new in the rotation last week.
No, you made a good point too, because the point spreads. I think that the difference though with the NFL, and we'll talk about this with John in a little bit. In the NFL, on any given Sunday, anybody can beat anybody. We know that. We've seen it too many times. Whereas on the NCAA, what it is they just keep moving the line so high that balances the action. And at some point in time, and that's what I did last week. I told you I hopped on that line. And I hopped on a parlay early, and I just said, give me 5 teams where I know the line's going to move. And I did pretty good so far. I still need them to cover. They're not covering. They're giving 10.5 for the first half, so I need points. But they're going to get points. That's what they do. They're very good at scoring points. They really are.
There's some games where the half point or even 1 point move doesn't even make a difference. We called it out last week that the Georgia-Arkansas game, you're either Arkansas money line because something severely wrong is going to happen to cause Georgia to lose the game, forget about the cover, or Georgia is going to blow them out and cover the spread. So, don't focus so much on the half point. Some games it just doesn't matter.
Yes, and Georgia and Alabama fall into that category many weeks, don't they? Very much so.
They do.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about this Saturday, because you know what? It's doing great last Saturday, but if these guys weren't here last Saturday, it don't do them diddly squat. So talk about this Saturday.
Well, I'm gonna. Do you mind if I hit one for tomorrow night before we go? Saturday?
No. Last Friday was special.
Yeah, so same reasoning behind what I'm looking at tomorrow night. I'm actually going against Cincinnati. I'm looking at Temple. And I'm taking 29.5 points. Cincinnati is coming off of the biggest game that program has ever played, a game that has put them in playoff conversation. Now they get to play against Temple. 29.5 points. Cincinnati can cover 29.5 points. That's just not their style, though. There's pick sixes. There's special teams. There's some form of help. And Temple is not a rollover, lay down type of team. I don't know that Temple wins. They probably don't. I don't even know that the game is within 15 points. But Temple is not 29.5 points worse than Cincinnati coming down off of a tremendous emotional high. I love points, and in this spot, I love taking the 29.5.
Yeah, that's something you could cut out on Tuesday and put as a commercials for him, because he does that. So he says things like that so many times, and then by Tuesday it's proven right. But the one thing we talked about when the teams clinch, what I said is my record betting against the team the night after they clinch a Major League Baseball playoff spot is incredibly high, because it's not physically possible for most. Tom Brady's different. He could probably play the week after a Super Bowl and put up 298 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. But everybody else is human beings, and the emotion it takes out of you, especially when there's champagne in the room, is a lot. It takes a lot out of you. And then you're late to get started in your week, because those kids were riding that high. And the coach, as much as he wants to get them back in focus, their friends are calling, their high school buddies are calling, their families calling, everybody's calling them, their phones are blowing. So you're absolutely right. And they don't need to win by 28 to keep those championships. If they win this game by 17 to 20 points, nobody's going to think anything less of them, right?
Nobody's going to think anything less of them. I mean, they win by 20. Everybody's happy.